So for months now, I think possibly more than any other show on TV or the internet, I have probably obnoxiously focused on Donald Trump's ever-present desire to go herd. We have talked about it so many times. And there was a reason, because although they kept saying they'd moved on, they kept implying that their strategy for the pandemic certainly wasn't going to be to just let as many people get infected as possible. Once again, it is confirmed that that is 100% what their strategy is. One of President Trump's top medical advisors, this is coming out of the Washington Post, is urging the White House to embrace a controversial herd immunity strategy to combat the pandemic, which would entail allowing the coronavirus to spread through most of the population to quickly build resistance to the virus, while taking steps to protect those in nursing homes and other vulnerable populations, according to 5 people familiar with the discussions. The idea is, if that's not clear enough, just let people get it. Some people will get sick, get hospitalized, be injured for the rest of their lives, and indeed die. But then eventually, hey, enough people will be immune that it'll be tougher for the virus to spread through the population. This is a bold strategy, considering the death toll, which we'll get to in a second. Also bold strategy, since we have no idea if you even develop immunity to the virus. It seems like the sort of thing that you'd want to be sure about that before saying we should do that. But that hasn't stopped these people. And so how many people would die, hypothetically, if we were to pursue this strategy that they are 100% pursuing? With a population of 328 million in the US, it may require 2.13 million deaths to reach a 65% threshold of herd immunity, assuming the virus has a 1% fatality rate, according to an analysis by the Washington Post. Over 2 million people would die if they follow this strategy. And this is not something that Donald Trump doesn't understand. This is something that Donald Trump has been talking about for literally months. He did a town hall back on May 4th. Here's a quote from it. Well, it's too soon to say that really, I guess, because we're still in the middle of something, but certainly we would have lost a lot more people, Brett. If we would have gone, as an example, you call it herd. If we would have done herd, in other words, everything is wonderful, let's just keep going. Question, herd immunity, the president. We would have lost 2.5 million people, I think, or 1.5 million, or 2 million people. That was May 4th, when we had already found out that he kept bringing up going herd multiple times, and Dr. Fauci had to tell him, you can't let millions of people die. That was months ago. And so they have elevated this new guy, which we're gonna talk more about, who is just pushing all the time to do this. And apparently, according to the Washington Post, the administration has already begun to implement some policies along these lines, according to current and former officials, as well as experts, particularly with regard to testing, which they have tried to limit as much as possible.
I need to puke, so just.
That might be a symptom.
I might be getting sick, or I might just be watching what is happening. I mean, first of all, even if this was your strategy, show me how you're protecting nursing homes. You SOB, you're not protecting nursing homes. You don't care. All right, and this needs to be another thing that we need to, when we talk to potential Trump voters, when we actually are making this case, look, these are his voters. He's losing seniors in Florida, man. Do you realize what that means? Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the elderly, and he's left them out to dry. So, yeah. Oh yeah, what are you doing to protect seniors? You're not protecting seniors at all. We know you're not protecting nursing homes. But also, this is all just an excuse for his giant failure. This is a plan F or Z or wherever we're going, right? Like, this is a plan because you can't admit that in the richest country in the world, you cannot implement basic contact tracing, quarantine, isolation, and mass testing. You can admit that you have politicized the CDC and Health and Human Services and your own administration to the point where anyone with the expertise and the knowledge for how to do those things has been completely cut off from decision making. You are admitting that you're so pig-headed that you won't accept the assistance or help or advice from any other country because you're the greatest country on earth. No, so again, it is a plan die, and again, 2 however million people, we're just gonna go along with this. What, again, I need to go, I feel sick.
Yeah, we're all gonna be sick. I mean, okay, I try to be fair, so let's be fair. This strategy obviously looks bad, but let's at least briefly run down the differences between this strategy and doing absolutely nothing and letting it rampage through the country. There, we just did. It's nothing. It's just nothing. What is he doing? What? And like, if you're a Trump fan and you're in the audience right now, what is the national contact tracing plan? What is the national plan, as Francesca alluded to protect people in these nursing homes? What are they doing? What resources have gone out? What directives do they have? Nothing. What are they doing in any way? Anything to have to do with this for the last 3 months, at least, maybe 4? What have they done? Trump resumed his press conferences. Did we learn a single fact about the recovery throughout all of those? He announced that you could use the convalescent plasma, or as he says, plasma, which the doctors say there's no good evidence yet that it actually helps. At the very least, it's not bleach and it's not hydroxychloroquine. So it seems like it won't kill you. So maybe that's better than his previous things that he's added. But there's also no evidence it helps you. So I'm not really gonna give him all that much credit. The numbers have continued to spread and he doesn't care. And it is obvious why, because he's just gonna let it spread. The only inoculation they have done is to inoculate their fans against the horror of what is going on. And so a different way every week, they have told them this isn't something you have to worry about. And they've had 20 or 30 different things of that. And recently they had their thing that all the fake news sites are spreading, that the CDC says that only 6% of people actually died from COVID. It's not at all what they say. It's nothing like what it's being presented as. But hey, if it makes you feel warm and toasty and comfortable and doesn't mean that you have to open your eyes to the horror of more than 1,000 people continuing to die every single day, literally months after this pandemic hit, I get why that would be appealing to some weak-minded people. And you can see that spreading now. We're gonna talk about it a little bit more later. But just, I mean, how many times have we talked about the herd thing? They're just doing the herd thing.
They're just doing the herd thing. And also in Phoenix, Arizona, there is a case of a man being reinfected with COVID. Yeah. And it sucks. Like, come on, you guys. This is the whole thing, QAnon is a shortcut for thinking, right? Like, conspiracy theories are shortcuts. The red hat is a shortcut for just a book, just reading a little bit, just read an article, read your local newspaper, right? Like, what is actually happening is awful. We don't know. And so there are tons of unknowns, but we're moving in the opposite direction. We're moving towards not just herd immunity, but herd think when it comes to believing that this virus isn't real. And then you have things like someone being reinfected. And I get that that's scary. It's gonna have to be scary. And again, look at what other countries are doing. They don't know if people can get reinfected. They pretty much, it's still a mystery. We don't have a vaccine. There is no cure. Ergo, you've got to do everything else possible to minimize death and illness. So yeah, anyway, just to say, the science is not even, the science isn't there. Just the science is, it's not there. Even if you were willing to accept 2 million people dying, there's a chance that people can get reinfected. So it's just not there.
Yeah, exactly. And like we shouldn't have, great work by the Washington Post putting this together, multiple officials saying that. And this guy is like the new Fauci for Trump, this Scott Atlas, which we're gonna talk more about. But we don't even need it. When Trump gave his speech and they packed 1,500 people with 3 masks and 2 inches between them, and they didn't test everyone, what did they say why was that okay? What was the excuses given by the White House? And Jim Acosta talked to a representative, and the representative said, everyone's gonna get it. That is just an admission that they can call it herd immunity. They don't even understand the concept. I mean, the concept isn't even likely to work in this case, and the cost would be horrific, but they don't even care. It's just, it seems like a nicer, more scientific way to say, it's whatever, man, it is what it is. That's what the strategy is. It is what it is. The herd strategy is not a threshold for limiting the transmission. It's what they think of our population as. The business leaders and the political leaders think there's a big dumb herd of sheep. Some of them will die, but not many of us. Maybe a Herman Cain on the edges, maybe 1 or 2, but we're gonna be okay. And we think that this is gonna benefit the economy. They're wrong. It's not gonna help the economy, but they value that possibility more than potentially 2+ million lives.
And hey, thanks to structural racism in this country, what do you know? Black and brown communities feeling it more than others. So not really the MAGA crowd. Go on with your lives. Enjoy your lives, ladies and gentlemen. The black and brown communities are suffering the brunt of it. Great.
Exactly.
Like again, once again, we've talked about how this is very eugenics-like, and let's never forget that.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.